Do you scale out in a linear manner? Let's say, 20% at every scale out. No. Let's talk about how I scale. So first of all, in the decision tree, it depends on whether this trade is, as you guys have heard me define, a scalp or something more like a really nice narrative trade. We'll throw in a third variable with let's call short-term conditions, right? And what I really mean by that is there blood in the streets? Is it just wow, like look at this movement, look at this volume, look at this VIX, stuff like that. So those are the three factors. And then you might guess if it's a scalp, I'm going to scale a little more, a little sooner. Because it's a scalp. Why would I place more emphasis on something of a core position holding for more when I don't feel that I have strong wind in my sails from narrative? Doesn't make sense to me. So that's kind of the deal when I'm scalping. I might take half off, right? On kind of like first, second scale. I might take 3/4 off. Some scalps are so scalpy, I'm essentially all in, all out. More of my bread and butter narrative trades, I just keep NASDAQ up as we talk. I'm going to scale out less early, right? I might only take off 10%. I might take off a third. And leave more on for that core position. Why might I do that? Well, I feel I have the wind at my back, the wind in my sails, right? A tailwind. I have narrative that is potentially and probabilistically propelling this trade in it further than just intraday rotations and rhythm, which I still use to time the trade and to take an initial scale and stuff like that. This trade is bigger than those things, right? This trade has my edge comes from the risk reward asymmetry of the narrative read. So I want to place more of my being right or wrong on that bet. So I scale out less based on short-term junk. If I'm scalping, I'm probably going to have order flow in my favor. I'm probably going to have, all kinds of things in my favor that I'm going to use those tools as a larger part of my bet as to what ends up making me right or wrong. I'm not going to lose money on a scalp that gives me a really good rotation or two in my favor, but some core position that I've held for that scalp move doesn't work out ultimately. I'm not going to lose money on that situation, right? I might end up losing money on a A+ narrative trade that I get into and I get an initial scale and the rest of it is a full stop, right? I might take -1R on 67% of the trade and I've only scaled 1.5R on a third of the trade, right? That's a net losing sequence. Hope that makes sense. It's all about the category of the trade and the conditions present. When things are really, really flying around, I forget the number because I don't do a good job of keeping up with like, this was my best thing ever or whatever. Some of you in the community, maybe you remember it. Maybe I tweeted it. I don't know. But I know that at some point during 2020, I didn't take a first scale until something nasty in the S&P. I forget if it was 50 handles, 80 handles first scale, right? Those are special conditions for that to happen. It's only happened to me once, right? Like that. So, but when I see that and it just goes and I'm like finger on the hotkeys, I'm ready to take profits. And it's just boom, 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 boom. And why should I take profits? At least scare me out of a scale out, right? And in fact, a lot of times that's how I handle scales. I'm like, okay, we're late in a rotation. Let's be ready to take some profits here. You guys have seen me do that this week, right? Multiple times. We go in. I'm not just limiting out a lot of times. I'm saying, okay, it's a good time to scale. Remember earlier today, I'm looking for that capitulation, or I'm looking for the buyers to start to pull it back up, and I scale.